thank you again for being here. Let's start with the easiest question. Why did you go out and do this yesterday?
I mean, really, I woke up angry about a lot of things that were going on because I live in the area where the protest for the young man that got killed by the police. I live in that area, so I was actually on the scene the night prior when there was a fire at the house. And there was a heavy police presence and a heavy civilian presence. However, really not visible leadership. And once the fire was over with, the police left and the neighborhood was basically just in disarray. There was just people everywhere, not really knowing what to do, not really having anything to do. And you know, I kind of blame it on so many activists and so many different groups that are trying to get all of this media play, you know, to where people don't really feel like they should really do anything unless there's a lot of people, and you don't really feel like you should do anything unless there's cameras everywhere, and nothing really gets done like that. You know, some people were talking about, and bless their heart, they were talking about coming, you know, maybe we want to, you know, do some demonstrating outside of the news places. And I just had to tell them, you know, you can't really solve a football problem at the baseball field. You know what I mean? So you can't really solve a problem that's in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in a business district. You know what I mean? It's just not going to work. So I was angry about people being upset about the protesters and the rioters and the looters, and I was upset about them being angry at those people and saying that and nobody's out here for this little girl, and this little 9-year-old girl got shot, and they saying that ain't nobody out there for them. And my thought was to respond, you not out there for her either. But instead of doing that, I just went on there and I said, hey, I'm on the street. Feel free, you know, to come out there. One of my friends from high school, who I was actually talking to at the time, he saw me out there, so he stopped and kept me some company. And then I had another friend from high school, we talking about 25 years ago now, and he came by and stopped and kept me some company. And a few people came by and offered lunch and water and something to drink and stuff like that. But I don't really think that I was on that. You know, I think I only ate a little bit all day yesterday, you know, just from adrenaline alone. And it's a sticky situation in our neighborhoods, and you don't really feel it if it doesn't happen to you and if it's not frequent in your neighborhood. But when it is, you get to a point where the water starts boiling over the pot, you know, and you get that sizzle when it hits the fire. And that was just the sizzle, I guess. And you know, we want to really go ahead and get things moving. You know, we want to put that fire out because the neighborhoods and our community is just getting out of hand. Somebody needs to step up and push. If not the person himself, then somebody who knows, which somebody always knows. You know, somebody always knows in our neighborhood that who did what. And I mean, if you're afraid, then you need to stay in the house because you're a coward. That's the way I feel. If you're afraid of your own community, then you might as well just cower up and die for all I care. And I can't do that. I got children, I got grandchildren, and my grandchildren are going to grow up, and if I have anything to do with it, they're going to feel safe, you know.
One of the things you were yelling when you were out there yesterday was, somebody knows something and they're not saying anything. Is the root of your anger over the code of silence the fact that nobody's speaking up about this little girl, or that there isn't the outrage that you feel like you should see over her death versus the protests we're seeing over the officer-involved shooting?
And you know, I don't think, first of all, I don't think it has anything to do with the officer-involved shooting. That is a whole nother case in itself. And I commend the people who have been protesting against, you know, peacefully and righteously against police brutality in the neighborhoods and these senseless killings that a lot of them have been unanswered. You know, I commend them. But I don't think that my deal had anything to do with that. I just think that's just me. That's just something that I would say. That's something that I would say if somebody took something out of my house. If I had 5 friends over there and something came up missing, when I saw them, I'd be like, somebody knows something. You know, one of y'all knows something. And it wouldn't be because nobody was telling me. It would be because that's the way I talk. That's the way I would come at you. And I wasn't just out there yelling. I mean, I was making eye contact just like I'm making eye contact with you, to people in their cars, old ladies and young men and young women and people with children in their cars, and letting them know it could have been your daughter. If I saw a woman with a child in the car, or a man with a child in the car, I let them know, face eye to eye, it could have been your daughter. And then I said it could have been my daughter.
Something you posted on your Facebook yesterday was you were going to be out at Page and Union and you would be there all day by yourself if you needed to. You mentioned people stopped by, but you spent the bulk of the day out there by yourself. It didn't turn into a large demonstration. Did that surprise you?
Well, I think that's what I wanted. I think I wanted for people, I think my mission was to get out here and raise some awareness, and some people would come out there and stand next to me. But I'm not upset about no one coming. You know, it seems like a lot of the Facebook replies have been about, oh, why was he by himself and why was he by himself? And I mean, whoever built this building that we're in right now was one man that thought about, you know, the plans, and then he got some people together and they said, all right, we'll help you build it, and then got the architects and all that kind of stuff. So everything really starts with one person. So I wasn't upset that there was nobody with me. However, that was my goal, to get someone to stand out there. And the people that I did talk to, like my friend from high school, he did come out there and he did sit with me when he could have been doing something else. I had another friend from high school. He could have done something else. My cousin, she could have done something else. She had 2 children to pick up. And she saw me on the corner and said, I'll be back. I got to go pick up my other girl. And they came back and they sat out there and they brought me water and Powerade and stuff like that. So, I mean, it really bothers others who don't live in our community more than it bothers us. We want to know who killed her. We want to know why. We want to know who was shooting. We want to know who's not. Somebody got to say something. I can't stress it anymore. And I mean, it's not. I wasn't just saying the same thing over and over because I'm a tape recorder. I'm saying the things over and over because there's different people coming every 5 minutes, and everybody needs to hear the same message.
You often hear talk about a tipping point, one incident that has people saying enough is enough. Is that what this was for you?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, you can't imagine how many people lose their children or lose any loved one, any one of their loved ones, to gun violence in this city. I know the news reports a lot of it, but there's a lot of it that you have no idea about. You know, there's a lot of people that just go, they're gone and nobody knows nothing. Nobody hears anything about it. And everybody in my neighborhood knows that. And hopefully now everybody in the country, you know, and in the world will know that people are losing their lives over senseless violence. And if somebody shoots in your house and kills your child or kills your husband or your wife, it's a possibility that nobody will say anything. And this is what that's for, to stop that.
Some of her family members stopped by and talked with you at one point yesterday, and you said that's when you knew you'd be out there for the rest of the day.
Oh, yeah.
What was that experience like with them, and in what way did that re-energize you to keep going?
Well, the pain that you can see when somebody's walking towards you and you don't know them, and you don't know if they're really coming towards you or not, but it feels like they are, and you're looking in their faces, and you can see the pain and the anguish and the hurt in their eyes. It just makes you feel like when they want to hug you and they want to come to you and say thank you, it just makes you want to keep going, you know. It'll bring you to tears, but it makes you want to keep going. It makes you want to fight for the people who can't fight right now. That family is hurting bad. I know. I was there at their house. I was there on the street. One of Jamila's uncles actually pulled up before them. He was one of the first people that stopped. And that was a turning point as well. And when her aunt and her cousin came up and hugged me and she cried on my shoulder, I knew that somebody had to stand strong for the family because right now they're mourning. So since I was already out there, I continued to be out there.
What you were yelling to drivers who were going by, even walkers, was if you won't stand up for children, who will you stand up for? What type of action would you like to see the community take?
Well, this is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that everybody gets out and does the same thing that I did. You don't need a crowd of people. You don't need to form a group. There's lots of people saying, well, when are you going to do this or when are you going to do that? And I applaud their willingness to go out and do something, but the city is really big and there's problems everywhere. You know, if there's no problems in your neighborhood, then that means the next neighboring neighborhood, there's a lot of problems. I mean, I stay right down the street from multi-million-dollar homes, and yet I live in the ghetto, basically, you know, and they hear the same gunshots I hear. Their walls are just a lot thicker. And I want the people to get out in their own neighborhoods and find out information about who's killing all of these children, all of these people. You know, everybody knows somebody that is being gunned down in their neighborhood, or at least everybody I know, and nobody knows who did it. You know, crimes are gone unanswered, and it's your responsibility as a community to get out in the streets and assist if you don't like the police. I understand a lot of people have their reasons for being standoffish with the police, and I think that's fine. You know, I know people will disagree with me, but get out there and do something, and don't be afraid. You get out there and say something. Get out there and stand on the corner about your son. You know, get out there and stand on the corner about your brother or your sister that was killed 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Or get up there and say something about your child that was wrongly imprisoned or anything. But get out there and say something. And you don't need a crowd of people. Go outside your house and stand up with a sign on your street and let people know that you care about your community and that you care about knowing what went on with your family member. These people, they care. I mean, I left the vigil. I went to the vigil and I left the vigil and I went right back to the street and waited on somebody to come pick me up. But I still got my sign and I still want people to know that it's time to stand up for our children. Like I said, I mean, if you ain't standing up for the kids, who you standing up for?
You grew up in and you still live in a neighborhood where you said yourself, you hear the gunshots. Is part of this about standing up for our kids, not just those who have been victims of gun violence, but who are growing up in that kind of community? This young girl's brother knew he had to hit the floor when he heard those gunshots because it wasn't the first time he had heard gunshots. What does that say about our community, and what can we do for those children?
Well, first of all, a lot of the violence that's plaguing the area is spreading. So it may have used to just happen in certain small communities, but now it's spreading out. People are moving, and I mean, when I move, I take my belongings with me, I take my attitude with me, I take my behavior with me. So just because a lot of us move to a certain area doesn't mean that the violence won't follow us. And poverty brings about a lot of different things that people who don't suffer from being poor will ever understand. So the violence, you have to let the children know that it's not okay. You have to let the children know that when somebody dies, that's it. They're gone. You know, and there's a lot of people, a lot of programs, a lot of video games, a lot of television, a lot of movies, and a lot of music that makes it seem like death is kind of like a plaything, like gun violence is like a plaything. I mean, the action movies are the ones that are making the money, you know, not the documentaries about righteous people, you know. Maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, just maybe sooner or later people will start wanting to see that kind of stuff. You know, as far as the children are concerned, maybe the children will start wanting to listen to something that's going to teach them something other than to hurt each other and other than to kill each other. Because there's people out there that's making movies like that, and there's people out there that's making music like that, and there's television shows out there that will teach you something, and there's websites and all this kind of stuff. And I'm happy that the people that shared and the people that posted, I'm happy that they did that just the way they would do with two young girls fighting on a school bus or anything like that. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to see that. Maybe the children want to see it, but they don't even want to see it. They've just been taught that that's what's good. And what's really good is standing out on the corner telling people that you want to know what happened, and it's their responsibility to let somebody know.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Stay strong. I'm on my way back out to the streets.
Where are you headed today?
It don't matter. People gonna know I'm there.
Thank you so much.
You should go out too.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so
All right.
much.